One of the important questions about trust is, how must I behave to be trusted? This is episode number 6 of season 4 on the Lead to Exceed chat. My name is Baye and your host on the chat. Sit tight as we dive into this important question. In one of our earlier chats, we identified 2 main foundational elements of trust: character and competence. We examined other elements of the 2 main components, including values, intent, competence, accountability, results, etc. The big question that arises is whether people are born with a natural gift to be trustworthy. The answer is no. What does play a role in people's ability to be more trustworthy or breed trust is their value system, which in turn might have a lot to do with their worldview and how they have been socialized. The good news is that through research, it has been established clearly that there are certain behaviors that help breed trust, and these can all be learned and practiced behaviors. In this chat and in a few others, I'll be focusing attention on behaviors that breed trust. Now, let me go back and refer to Stephen Covey's book, The Speed of Trust. In this book, Stephen identifies 13 behaviors that help breed trust. I'm not going to reinvent the wheel. I will discuss behaviors of trust along the same lines and bring some context from my own experiences of how these help breed trust. As we talk through these behaviors, it is always important to remember that a healthy balance needs to be kept in each behavior, as you know that too much of everything is not necessarily great. Let me start by tackling the first behavior, which is transparency. For some people, becoming a leader can be a real power trip. They relish the feeling of control over both people and information, and so they keep secrets, reveal little of their thinking about people and their performance, and hoard what they know about the business and its future. This kind of behavior certainly establishes the leader as boss, but it drains trust right out of a team. This is a quote from Jack Welch. At one point in my career, I joined a company that had a history of high turnover of senior executives and CEOs. My job involved managing the retail function of the company. This means that I had responsibility for all the retail branches of the company. There was very limited communication from the management of the company, and the most vibrant communication channel was the one provided by the labor union. A deep culture of distrust for the management was rife. One of the immediate things I did was to create a habit of regularly visiting the branches and meeting staff face to face to share with them how the company was performing and what was required to meet the goals. I also created the opportunity for staff to ask burning questions, and I provided answers to them in an ask me anything fashion. This immediately started to diffuse the deep distrust that the staff had for members of management, at least within the retail part of the company. This story illustrates the power of transparency. Transparency is about being open, genuine, and truthful. It is at the heart of authenticity. People who are not transparent tend to hide information, are secretive, and tend to withhold all of the information that is required by other people. Quite often, a lack of transparency creates room for hidden agendas to thrive. During the global financial crisis, one of the things that received devastating blow was trust in financial institutions. There were many instances of a lack of transparency around risks that were well known, but which were not transparently made known until they led to the collapse of institutions that were previously thought of as too big to fail. What this has led to is an increasing regulation of the industry. We live in an age where the role of regulators is so important in creating confidence in organizations and industries. In my experience, I find that perhaps the one thing that regulators value the most is not to be surprised by what they find in a regulated entity. This means that regulators place great value on entities that maintain a high level of transparency. Transparency means that there is nothing to hide. It helps create buy-in much faster than the opposite. Nothing helps build public trust faster than transparency. When there are PR incidents and organizations try to repair it, some organizations rather make vague, opaque statements that raise more questions than they answer. Others avoid the issue altogether and adopt a media blackout. These only aggravate the distrust from the public. There are many reasons why leaders adopt a culture of intransparency. For some leaders, they think that their power comes from how much information they keep. Some feel insecure when they think about sharing information. Others get caught up in the dilemma of what to share, what not to share, and then end up not sharing anything at all. People can see when we are being intransparent. Transparency does not mean that every information must be shared, of course. There are certain information that are just not appropriate for a particular audience or seniority of employees, as the impact of that information in the wrong hands can actually create trust issues. There are also information that by law and regulation cannot be shared at a particular point in time. Organizations treat some information on a need-to-know basis, and some information are even restricted. When some of such information are not handled in the right way, they can lead to the erosion of organizational trust or even market trust. Ultimately, it is always easier to get buy-in with transparency than one can hope to achieve with opacity. In a research by Harvard Business, they examined the impact of oxytocin on trust. The research mentions, and I quote, that only 40% of employees report that they are well informed about their company's goals, strategies, and tactics. This uncertainty about the company's direction leads to chronic stress, which inhibits the release of oxytocin and undermines teamwork. Openness is the antidote. Organizations that share their flight plans with employees reduce uncertainty about where they are headed and why. Ongoing communication is key. A 2015 study of 2.5 million manager-led teams in 195 countries found that workforce engagement improved when supervisors had some form of daily communication with direct reports. This is just how important transparency is. The second behavior that helps build trust is called straight talk. Straight talk is the ability to speak the truth in a clear and unambiguous way. This way of expression and communicating ensures that there is no doubt about a person's position on a subject matter. I'm sure you may have encountered people in various walks of life who will never take a stand on anything. The stand they take depends on who they are talking to and what they know the interest of those people are. There are even people who, with malicious intent, will give you an impression that they support a particular course of action, only to find them take a different position when in a different context. One of my most bitter experiences in my corporate journey was when one time I was due to make a proposal to a committee to seek the promotion of a certain category of colleagues who unjustly had not had their promotions. I had discussed the proposal with a colleague who I thought had a trusting relationship with, and he always gave me the impression he supported my proposal. During the meeting to discuss the proposal, this colleague just presented various arguments and in the end made a case for why the proposal should not be carried out at that time. During that period, I got a call from a junior colleague who recounted a conversation he had had with this colleague, who told this junior colleague that I was the person who was standing in the way of their promotion. Wow. This was like a stab in my heart, and as you can imagine, made all the trust disappear. I thought I had trust with this colleague. This story will illustrate why it is so important to be straightforward. There are many people who have mastered the art of never standing for anything, so they can never be quoted as having taken a stand. This is not smartness. It is just a lack of trustworthiness. When people are not straight talkers, then they are lying, beating around the bush, withholding information, double talking, flattering, and spinning information. While straight talk is an important behavior for building trust, I would argue that it has to be done with wisdom and sensitivity in order that it does not end up creating other problems, such as impacting the mental health of people receiving the information, or even done in a disrespectful manner. It is important to build capability and the courage to straight talk in an effective manner. Organizational straight talk requires that communication to the public about products and services are transparent enough so that all the downsides are made known to clients. It's important that fees that organizations charge their clients are transparent and not hidden in fine prints. This is at the heart of regulators' focus on what has become known as treating clients fairly. Clients trust firms that are straight with them about the risk they take on by investing in one product versus the other. When salespeople fail to declare certain information for fear of losing a sale, they take a much bigger risk, the problem of reputational risk of the firm, and ultimately the risk of litigation. Let me conclude this chat with this thought. Not being transparent and not being straightforward go against the very grind of what engagement with people and organizations is all about. If you're not willing to be transparent or straightforward, then don't expect to be trusted. In my next chat, I'll be handling 2 more trust behaviors in this series. As I mentioned earlier, this is the crux of this series, the behaviors. So here is what I'd like you to do. Get on the front seat when we release the next episode by subscribing and hitting the notification button. Like and comment to get more people seeing it, and share this video as widely as you can. And if you have any questions or reflections, please share them with us. I am Henry Baye, your host on the L2X chat. See you soon.